Hi there, this is John from Team Arrayo. I'm here today to demo MLFlow, which is a tool by Databricks, which can be used for model development and model deployment to great effect. We think that MLFlow can help unlock the value and the potential of the machine learning and data science teams that a number of companies have put together, and we would really like to assist in unlocking this potential with your team. So for most of today's stuff, we're going to be working off of this little repo I've created. You can feel free to clone this and run it for yourself. This is based off of the data from a paper called DeepSol, which I would encourage you to read here. And you can check that out and if you're at all interested in what's going on here. So if we go over here to the MLFlow UI, we see that there are kind of two different panes. This is your experiment pane, and this is the individual runs inside of an experiment. So the experiments are used to track different projects or data sets that your team is working on. So here we are looking at this one experiment, which is about in-sample trading for a Q-learner. So we have in the other pane how this Q-learner with different parameters, how that performs on various metrics. And so we can click on a specific run and get a little more information. We can see how the return varied over that in-sample period, and we can track how the iterative algorithm, how the portfolio value improved or stopped improving over our repeated exposures to the data. So now I'm going to switch back to our demo at hand, the DeepSol demo. And here at the top, we just have a little bit of magic that we're using to connect to the server. The server setup is something that we here at Team Arrayo can set up for you. There's a lot of different auth types available. So the server itself is something that you can just run locally. But here I have a little more complicated server setup, which I'd be happy to show in a different time. The rest of this code here is really, these are all just standard out-of-the-box Torch stuff. We use Torch text for this example, something I hadn't used before. It's kind of an interesting way to use language models. We have kind of a very dumb LSTM classifier. And here we're going to get into the actual use of MLFlow. So the purpose of MLFlow is to track how these metrics, as we talked about earlier, the values for these metrics or how these metrics change over time. And so all the code that we need to add to log a metric is this line right here. We call mlflow.logmetric, and we just set up a key value store. And so the key here is the train loss. The key is a string. And then we have a float for our value, and the value is the average loss. So this train batch function will get called repeatedly. We'll have repeated exposures to the data. So this log metric value will move up and down. Hopefully we just have less and less loss, but we all know that our models don't go exactly how we like. And this train loss is not the only way that you could use it. We see down here, we track the accuracy of the validation set as the validation set is repeatedly shown to the model. And so we can track how that accuracy changes over time. And so this is sort of the things that happen inside of a loop to get those curves that we showed earlier. And we will again show those curves in just a minute. So that is sort of how it works inside of your training loop. And now when we want to kick off an experiment, we have to set the experiment we're looking at. So right now we're looking at DeepSol. And we set the experiment to that. I think it's good practice to end a run just because there's no risk in doing it, and it makes sure that you don't start having two runs at the same time, which will cause you to bomb out. So we start the run, and then we can do all sorts of fun things with it. We can log an artifact. So here we log this notebook. So if you ever lost the code that you use to run a model, it's sort of a nightmare scenario to be in. And so something as simple as logging the file that you're currently using is a way that you can avoid that. We log the parameters that we had for this. so we know exactly what parameters we're tuning. And so if you're doing a hyperparameter search, you can easily go back and find out what did and didn't work in the past. So you won't be repeating experiments ever. You can know exactly what you've done. And then after that, all we have to do is call this train function, which goes and calls those earlier logmetric functions. And we can see back in the UI how that all plays out. So we'll go to the DeepSol v2, which we noticed we were working with. And we'll pick, we now have a couple of different runs that have gone for this one. And so we'll pick, this is probably one of the more successful ones. So we remember in the original window we had that concept of we were logging the metric of our train loss. As we click to this one, we now see the train loss right here. And we can see how that train loss varied over time. We saw that it went down a little bit, which is always good, but didn't really, go down towards zero, which we'd really hope when we're training a neural network. And so yeah, that's all the code that was required to get that training curve built there. It was just that log metric call. And the last fun thing that we had in this demo is you can log a model with just, again, one line of code, which is very handy. With MLFlow, we can also use it for hosting models, which is a nice addition, which we won't be demoing right now. And so that's sort of the gist of MLFlow. And the other kind of neat trick to it is that we saw this run was still going on. All of these visualizations are available while your model is still running. So this can replace possibly a tensor board and organize all of your experiments. And that's why I'm so enthusiastic about MLFlow. It's a great tool. It's all open source. And with just a little bit of help for setup, I think any team can get going with this. And so yeah, if you want to check it out yourself, again, you can clone this. You can make it better, do whatever you want. And if you need any more assistance, please reach out to Team Arrayo. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this demo. If you have any questions or would like to reach out, please do so on our contact page at teamarrayo.com/contact. Thank you.